Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel, or you've not done so already, how dare you, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are joined by 10th Man, Sleeping Warrior, and Paul in G+. How you all doing?
Yo, yo.
Hello. Hello.
Hey. I'm here too.
Oh, hey, Chocolate, didn't see you there. Good to have you. Oh, and the one as well, my bad.
No worries.
And we've also got a few people joining us in Discord as well, so a very warm welcome to all of you as well.
Welcome, crickets from Discord.
Welcome, Batman.
There you go, somebody said something.
Yay.
Hooray. Any signs of Earth curvature?
No, definitely not.
Not from Hawaii. No,
Not so-
Black Sea was flat last time I checked, a month ago.
So fast, got a few new guests. Anyone in Discord? Any signs of Earth curvature? You should all be off mute.
No signs of Earth curvature.
Any signs of axial
Still trying to find
rotation? Oh, go on.
Somebody said he's still trying to find it.
Oh, okay. Any signs of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Definitely not.
Definitely don't have an axis to go around.
Only thing we can ascertain is that the sky appears to be turning in two focal points. Doesn't mean there's an axis, doesn't mean that they're curving around each other and that are antipodal to each other. We just see two rotation points. We don't appear to be going around any curve. There's no measurable curve. There's definitely no measurable rotation. Now, what is going on? Who cares? But if you're going to claim that the Earth is turning, then you better well be able to demonstrate it with some scientific measurements, proving that it's the Earth turning rather than the sky. And they can't do it. All that science, Nathan. You'd think that after hundreds of years of science, they'd be able to demonstrate that easily, wouldn't you?
Speaking of science, any scientific evidence of gravity?
Don't know what you're talking about.
We'll have to have a definition for gravity because we don't really know what gravity is anymore. It used to be a force until World War One. Then they changed it. It's not a force, and now it doesn't even exist. So what is it we're asking?
Anthony, I have one definition. That's the thing that never existed.
You have one definition? What?
That's the thing that never existed.
I'm sorry, you said it fast.
It's a thing. It's a thing that never existed.
Ah, so did it? So if it's something that never existed, how do we prove that?
Well, you need a wardrobe first. Then you have to open the wardrobe, go through it, and then observe some stuff constantly falling down at that place.
Well, since you bring up a wardrobe, that argument is simply top drawer.
Oh my
God. So
Oh my god.
Somebody knock him out, quick.
I'll say this, the Globetards are getting more sophisticated in their arguments because they're saying now the reason things fall down is because they have mass. That's all they're saying now. They're not even using the word gravity anymore.
Because they have mass.
Yeah, but just because they have mass. Things fall down and because they have mass.
But mass is not a force according to the rumpus, so how could that possibly be?
Not
Well,
only that,
obviously,
Not only that, you've got things like helium that have no mass.
So come on, Paul, play devil's advocate with me. How can it possibly be when the rumpus, the authority that he is, claims that mass is not a force, but if it's going to be falling down and accelerating, there must be a force there. So what is that force?
Well, it's the force due to gravity. It's not gravity is not a force, but gravity produces a force.
See, you seem
Through
to be in a
mass.
state of contradiction there, Paul.
Really? How's that a contradiction?
That's not Paul. That's Zadig you're talking to.
I know.
Exactly.
No, I know. I realise that we're playing role play here. Paul is Zanuck at this point.
Hey, Arwen.
Hello.
Hello.
Or
Asian.
So if gravity's not a force, Paul, then you can't have gravity making a mass fall down, can you? Because gravity is not a force. Mass isn't a force either, but that mass is moving. So what's making it move? This, oddly, Paul, this is the question that Julian Bloomfield, PhD at MIT, thought that I was being a troll when I was asking him the question, well, what made Newton's apple start to move when it snapped off the stalk? And the answer, of course, is, well, it's not gravity being a force, so it couldn't be that by his own logic or his own citation. So what does make it happen? Because mass is not a force, because Rumpus said so. But something's making it move, and it is moving, and we can explain it completely. It's all relative density, isn't it? It's the apple relative to the medium it's in. We know that. It's obvious, but they don't want to say it, but it's true.
But gravity is not a force, but it creates a force, Anthony. Come on. It creates a force. Come on. Don't you understand this? Don't you understand?
Oh, don't tell me. It represents itself.
You're good, Paul.
Hold on, I want to answer these. I know it's only fun, but I still want to answer these reply.
Also, don't tell me, Paul, in the four-dimensional world known as space and time, there is something that happens that we represent in our three-dimensional world as a force, and that's the thing that makes the apple fall.
But come on, you just don't get it. You just don't understand. That's what it is. You just don't understand.
Okay, right,
Anthony.
fine.
Come on.
That's great. That's great. I can draw a line under then. So no scientific evidence of gravity. Moving on.
I think what happens, Nathan, is if they say the word space-time in any context, in any sentence, no matter what, as long as they say space-time, that to them is getting the tick in the box that, yeah, I've explained that. That's how it's sorted, right? Because it makes them sound intelligent, space-time.
What about it?
Well, that's their answer. Space-time.
Not an answer. That's the description of a conceptual medium. What about it?
When you hear them talking about it, so long as they can get the word space-time into their answer, it doesn't really matter how they answer it. As long as they can get space-time into it, it's like, I don't know, it's just like a key word that they go, space-time.
Wait, I got it. It's the vector down. Things move down. There's a vector that moves down. You know, and things
also
down
move up.
towards...
No, that's defied by gas law. Look, I just still want to get to the end of answer this point, Paul. No, things don't just move down, things also move up. So let's just move past that quickly and say, what do you mean space-time? Space-time is a conceptual medium, right? So what about it? We're looking for scientific evidence of gravity, and you're saying their answer is space-time. That's not an answer to anything. That's just two words that mean a conceptual medium.
Well,
I'm done. Go ahead.
Anthony?
That's about as good as it gets from.
Is that it? Oh, right. Bloody hellfire.
All of us know how to think, so we can't go any further.
It usually resorts to you just don't understand it, and I'm like, no, you're right, I don't understand it.
I can do without it. Do without it.
Neither do you.
Hello. Do without it. Don't care. A bit down. A bit ill. Let's move on. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
I think we need a definition for what is the sun first. We need to prove that it's physical, tangible. We can fly around it and come back, see the backside of it.
Is it B-Rain in the Discord server? If you're going to come off mute, you need to make sure your watch page is muted. So we don't know what the sun is.
Yesterday on 24/7, Zanuck declared that the sun makes entropy go down. So apparently he still doesn't understand entropy and our argument for entropy.
And also, mass reduces entropy too. By the way, mass does also.
He says reduces entropy. That's a nonsense.
Yeah, because the guy who was asking him, he was trying to. They were in the discussion of entropy, and Zanuck asserted he was like, "Well, what does the sun do to the entropy?" So the guy said it increases entropy, and he claimed, you're so wrong. You're wrong because the sun, its entropy is going down, and it's making the entropy of Earth going up. It was like, that's the point.
That's entropy increase.
So he was arguing against his own point, like he didn't even understand. It was hilarious.
Right, entropy. The rate of entropy can go down. Entropy doesn't go down. That's a nonsense statement.
Yep.
You can slow the effects.
Until he circled back at the end when he realized the sun's own entropy increases, obviously, because its energy is running out, and the Earth, it increases the entropy of the Earth. But not realizing that was the guy's point the whole time. So Zanuck himself doesn't understand it still.
Maybe he doesn't understand the difference between increase and decrease.
Well, I heard Zanuck actually say, not Zanuck. Who was it? Well, because if mass is keeping the atmosphere in lockstep, so to speak, then mass has to reduce entropy as well, right?
The best way I find to remember it, guys, is entropy is like the word decay. The more decay, the worse things are. Like it's reducing back to its bare basics, right? Its basic elements. If it's got low entropy, then it's not it's in a low state of decay. If it's got high entropy, it's in a high state of decay. So like an ant's nest is like a bustling town of ants, isn't it? And that's got really, really low entropy because it's lots of things happening. But when the ant's nest is dead and they're no longer in it anymore, and it's just a scar on the horizon, no ants anymore, all the eggs are dead and all that, and they've moved on, that's the highest state of entropy. Nothing's changing. No energy.
It's pretty simple, right?
Any evidence?
Yeah, it's another one of those backwards explanations like Coriolis and the non-rotating reference frame, and it's just designed to confuse.
It confuses the guy who goes on physics forums to find the answers and then comes in here and tells us we don't understand. Yeah, it's confusing, all right. For him.
Go ahead, Chocolate. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Paul.
No, I'm done.
I was actually watching because this definition of mass, I was just looking it up just to see yesterday, just to get an idea. And it's funny, anytime they talk about mass, it's always in relationship to another heavenly body, so to speak. You know, because it's the attractive force. So, you know, gravity is this attractive force, and you can have the same amount of something, but have a different mass. You know what I mean? Like, then they always relate it to the moon. Like the moon has a lower mass because it's smaller, has a less gravitational pull than, let's say, the Earth, because it has more mass, a greater gravitational pull. But if you think about that right off the bat, how could you ever verify that? You know what I mean? You'd have to, if for that definition to hold true, you would have to do experiments on the moon, so to speak, which I think that's one reason they supposedly went to the moon. But it starts to fall apart because anytime you start thinking about weight and mass, there starts to be a connection between weight and mass, even though they say weight and mass are not the same. Do you understand what I'm driving at? It's like double speak, twisting it around.
It's a non-stop shell game. It's one equivocation after the next. Hey, Flatzoid.
Flatzoid.
Hello, how's it going?
Well, first of all, they can't go to the moon, Paul, because the medium doesn't exist that they say. Second of all, gravity is now the force, so they can't use that. So the whole argument is begging the question.
And then how is mass different to relative density or density and mass? What's the in common?
Well, relative density's got a vector in the sense that it's got a direction and a magnitude, whereas mass doesn't have any direction or magnitude or density or vector. So mass is a scalar. Relative density is an action.
Yeah, that's why, Anthony, I said only density after this. So density and mass.
Yeah, you need to say the word relative density because then you're referencing two densities together, and they'll either be similar or not similar or whatever, and that'll give you your magnitude and your direction, therefore your vector, and everything can be explained. They just don't like it.
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Just an 8-mile hole drilled in North Russia, some Murmansk in North Russia. That's as far as they've got. They made. Oh, let's just put this into context as well. They made some seismological predictions, 4 key ones, and all 4 were wrong, thus bringing the credibility and the validity and the reliability of seismological predictions into question. So when you hear people questioning about or demonstrating that it must be an Earth because of seismology, just bring them back to the 4 points that seismology predicted at the Cold Super Deep Borehole and remind them that all 4 turned out to be wrong.
I think that this molten iron core is the most far-fetched thing that they've ever came with. That's so ridiculous.
Yeah, but it's sad that they use it as evidence.
Where is it? Show me some molten iron from the core.
Just a cartoon drawing in the books, that's all.
All just concepts. Everything they do is concepts.
And a very bad movie.
The core.
Yeah, absolute rubbish.
Yeah, that movie was pretty bad.
Any evidence of the R value itself, the presupposition of a spherical radius?
R.
In R we trust.
Arwen, it's your time to say it.
The only time there's any evidence of R is when we beg the question and we talk about refraction, horizons, bendy light, all that nonsense.
No, it's time for a prayer.
I feel like we retired that, right? We don't talk about curve calculators anymore. That nonsense got retired.
I got a bit of a not a thought experiment, but just some thoughts on. I was thinking about this a couple of days ago, and I couldn't get on the show to talk about it. But we talk about buoyancy and density and the relative density, and things are always trying to find that equilibrium between the two. If you just stop and think about it just for 1 second, where do most of the dense things we use come from?
Like ground?
Here.
From the ground. From the ground. Well,
from the ground.
Yeah.
The one is right. I mean, iron comes from the ground, aluminum comes from the ground, and even plants pull minerals from the ground. They pull them into, to cause processes to occur, but they're being pulled from the ground, and obviously they're wanting to seek back. They want to go back to where they came from, so to speak. So, the more you think about it, it's always like that relative density thing comes back into play no matter what. So everything wants to seek wherever it's at equilibrium at, and obviously if we pull something from the ground, it wants to go back to where it came from, so to speak. Something to think about.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
The plant's got to grow
It's like
first,
what
right?
It's like what
And
Anthony
that-
did, right?
Hold on.
That's like Riley's.
Hold on 1 second, Chocolate. Go ahead, Silent.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Silent.
Yeah, it's like what Anthony did with his video, where he puts like numbers on the things that to simulate where they were gonna stand, right? And if you get the periodic table and you assign numbers to each of those based on the density of the material, you can align them all like where they're gonna be.
Yeah. They don't like that. It's funny because they say, well, what happens when you put it in a 0G plane? And I say, we are in the 0G plane. Obviously, I'm playing on words.
Let me give that some qualification. What Anthony means by that is we're at equilibrium. We're at 0. The fact that they arbitrarily apply a 1 value, 1G, when in fact you're in equilibrium, and then say when you're in free fall, that's 0. That's a nonsense. That's just a moving up of the scale. Doesn't mean that we're experiencing a 1G force of anything. That's horseshit. We're in equilibrium. We're not falling. We're not rising.
I'm playing on 2 parts. I'm playing on the 0G, meaning no gravity, because gravity is not a force, right? But I'm also playing on the word plane. So when they say plane, they're on about fuselage thing, but wings. I'm on about planes and not curve.
When they say on a plane 0G, they mean in free fall on the Vomit Comet. You say on a plane in 0G, you mean standing where you are, not rising or falling.
Yeah.
Right, I get it.
It just works. But obviously, and then when I remind them that their plane isn't actually a zero-G plane, I remind them that it's a plane falling out the sky at a constant velocity. Its more accurate description should be a constant velocity plane, just velocity in the vertical vector rather than in the horizontal, lateral vector. They don't like that. They call it. They insist that it's called zero-G, and I'm like, no, it's a constant velocity plane. That's literally what it is, and they don't like it.
Nothing zero about falling. Anyway, just last but no means least, any evidence that you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container for all the fundamentalist religious zealots who believe in outer space, i.e. that the sky is a vacuum.
Somebody quote a teacher.
Pressure.
And to make that more specific, what we mean by vacuum, we don't mean necessarily, specifically, a low pressure system. We mean a lack of anything. That's what vacuum more specifically means, because you can have a low pressure system in a pressurized system with a lot of stuff in it.
Yeah, you've got to have gas pressure to begin with. Hold on, let me just clarify what Paul's just said, though, or quantify what Paul's just said. You've got to have gas pressure to begin with, though, to have that varying degree of gas pressure, right?
Yes.
So, to have gas pressure in the first place, you've got to have something to press upon.
And a vacuum, which means there's nothing to press upon,
Correct.
Not even other particles. There's
exactly.
no other particle to press on.
Right, exactly. So when we get, a plane wing creates a differential of pressure. It's like, where did you get the gas pressure to have that differential in the first instance? First comes the gas pressure, then comes the gas pressure differential, or gas pressure gradient, or anything else that is essentially a delta of the gas pressure. Where'd you get the gas pressure first? Well, it's got to be the walls of a container. That's what gives you the area that will give you the measurement for the gas pressure. The area of what? Well, the container, obviously. So the assertion that the sky is a vacuum is a nonsense assertion. It's the beginning, middle, and end of the death of the heliocentric model. The sky is not a vacuum. Outer space is fake. Every assertion that has ever been made from that fake medium of outer space debunks any claim that's made in that fake region. The sky is not a vacuum. The gas would fill the space. We have gas pressure. The sky, therefore, cannot be a vacuum. Space is fake. That concludes the housekeeping.
Well, wait a minute. Let me play Johnny Goldhead just for a second. But the particles of gas have mass, Nathan. Don't you know that? And they have this vector. They want to move and accelerate back towards the ground.
No, they don't. No.
That's what they say.
I don't care what they say. Gas expands in all directions. To fill the available volume it has to fill. It's not moving in a downward vector. It's expanding in all directions. That's what gas does.
Rumpus made a claim yesterday, Nathan. Do you remember me mentioning it?
Vaguely.
Rumpus said that it's perfectly acceptable to have gas pressure without a container. I can't actually remember what he said after that, but I thought I did ask you to address it because it was hilarious. I'm going to find it because it was so good. It's just worthy of recite today.
It was funny. Zanuck yesterday said something. He actually had gas pressure without a container, but when he started pressing him down on it, the electromagnetic field was containing it. So
the force field of gravity.
Yeah. So he
bastard.
Yeah, but so he was like saying it doesn't have a container, but when you started unpacking what he was saying, it was a magnetic field that was containing it. So think about it. It was still being contained. It still had a container, even though it was the magnetic field. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, they're referring probably to the Van Allen radiation belts.
The word pressure has press in it. I don't know if anyone's noticed that. For those pressure deniers out there.
Right. Pressure needs to press, correct.
It's
in the word.
Semantics.
Words and their meanings. Yeah, that's right, Chocolate.
Yeah. But,
that's what he said. I found it. This glorious nugget from Rumpus. This has got to be one of those instant classic comments that went unnoticed yesterday, but we should copy and paste it. It says, this is what Rumpus said. He says, gas pressure can exist perfectly happily without a container. If something like gravity exerts a force on the gas particles, easy and observed to be correct. Oh yeah? Tell me again about what gravity is, Rumpus. and the lack of whatever it is. It's not a force. So how is it going to be pulling on the gas pressure particles? It isn't, is it? But you do need a force to stop them from bursting off into space, because obviously Newton's first law of motion states that an object in motion will remain in motion unless acted upon by a force, and you haven't got one, have you? So why is it not bursting into space, Rumpus? Come on, join the panel, Rumpus, and let's hear you explain your way out of this one. Gravity is not a force.
And Newton's laws of motion were not right.
Oh, don't tell him that before he joins. He might not join, Nathan.
Well, maybe this will help. Explain to me how gravity is not a force, but it creates a force.
It doesn't create a force.
It creates a force.
Let me just answer these before they get off the starting blocks. It's not creating a force. It's not a force. It's the bending of a conceptual medium. The bending of a concept. Now, I don't care what anybody says. That's not giving rise to anything. It's the bending of a concept.
Oh, that gives rise to a lot of bullshit.
It gives rise to a lot of bullshit. That's right, the one. Very accurate.
But I've heard Ant-Man say that gravity is a force.
Well, it isn't.
It's not a force.
I don't care.
Literally everywhere.
Now they're just thinking it's a force. So.
No, Ant-Man said in that parody, it's not a force, but it's also a force.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Just quoted you there.
Hey, Owen, I heard somebody not redefine, but rephrase what we call relative density disequilibrium. It was suggested that perhaps it could be called entropic disequilibrium, and I quite like that. It sounds almost it sounds like paradise.
We had an endless conversation with QE, Dr. John D, you, me, a whole bunch of people. It's a second order effect. To call it entropic disequilibrium or whatever you called it is incorrect, because it's a second order effect.
It sounds better than gravity.
I don't care. It's not accurate. Relative density disequilibrium, if you're trying to describe the effect of forcing something out of an equilibrium and then dropping it in place of gravity, relative density disequilibrium, as Arwin coined, is extremely accurate. But utilising a second order effect of entropy in this regard is just not accurate. Sorry. Yeah, it might sound nice. I don't care.
RDD.
I mean, if you think about it, though, I mean, I've said this before, and I think I've said on here many times. Like, even when I was looking at math, they start to appeal to the heavenly bodies to translate something to cause something. You know, everything is like they have to look to the stars to figure out the ground. They have to look at the stars to figure out mass. They have to look at the stars to do all kinds of things. But if you look at the ground, there's a lot of things can be explained without appealing to the stars in our understanding.
Yeah, but they have to, Paul. They have to. Otherwise, it's bye-bye bullshit space. They have to constantly talk about space and stars and vacuum and gravity and all those bullshit.
To me, I think water boiling in a vacuum is their death knell, because to have life, to have anything on here, you've got to have pressure to have liquid water.
Absolutely.
So to me, the whole process falls apart with water boiling in a vacuum chamber. It starts to fall apart.
And that destroys the whole bullshit narrative with the global warming and rising of the sea levels, because you can never have less or more water on Earth. It will always remain the same.
Have you guys discussed gravitational waves? Because I was recently having a heated discussion with my brother about gravity. And after I destroyed his argument, he proceeded to ask me if I had looked into gravitational waves. I haven't. I just was wondering if you guys had already destroyed that.
There are
it has an easy
lovely
destruction.
observation that's claimed to be a phenomena, but they can't prove what is causing it, because I could equally assert that I farted next to the camera and that perceived the thing that they claim was a movement. It was just the movement of me just going, and they couldn't prove that it's not. Prove what they claim is the gravitational wave, not just observe it and call it something because it seems to be suitable for you.
What's it supposed to do?
Oh yeah, what I was going to say, what's it supposed to be? So if there's a claim that this is a detection of the bending of a conceptual medium, my next question would be, let me get it straight. You're detecting the bending of a concept. That doesn't sound very sensical to me. But maybe they can explain it to you next time it's brought up.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Exactly. Yeah, what are they detecting when they're saying they're detecting a bending of a concept? How is that possible? How can you detect, a bending of a conceptual medium? It makes no logical sense whatsoever.
Concept waves, call it that.
But even in their own paradigm, it falls apart because they're supposedly picking up this gravitational wave of a black hole colliding or something millions of light years away, right? Well, there's all these other supposedly bodies that are fluctuating and orbiting and causing all these things going on in our own solar system. How do they remove all of that background noise to detect one little fluctuation of millions of light years away?
Yeah, and compare that to the radio signals to the moon. It's just...
There are no millions of light years away in a medium that doesn't exist, that they keep talking about, because Rumpus is saying gravity is a force and that's what keeps the atmosphere in. Yeah, but except gravity, even in their terms, is strongest at the level of the ground. So why is the gases rising if the gravity at the strongest point can't keep it down? It's so ludicrous.
But I've seen it on the telly.
Yeah. See a lot of things on the telly.
And my teacher in school said so.
Yeah, well, cause and effect.
We were getting, this is how they muddy the waters, too. We got into a discussion yesterday about Anthony's paper, and I was talking to Danny T about it. And, I was talking specifically about evolutionary biology, which means is how we got where we are today. He shifted it to just pure biology. You see a problem with this argument right off the bat. I'm talking about how they're talking about how things developed to get where it is today. That's what I'm talking about. But then he started talking about how things are today. And then we started going back and forth. And then I realized that's what he was doing. He was saying, well, biology is good. We need to understand how things work. We need to categorize things and all this stuff. I'm going like, yeah, I agree with that. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about how we got to where we are. The evolutionary side of the problem. There's no other option, and it was they always shift the argument, and make you focus on one thing and instead of focusing on the thing you're talking about. This happens a lot, I've noticed. We got to stay on top of it when we're doing that argument, when we're in discussion.
The oxyribonucleic acid, DNA, information encoded in the cells. No chance, not from chaos. It's information. It is because it's coded to be what it is. It was always that way. That's biology.
Yeah, and actually that video I dropped in the Master B, I don't know if you guys saw it. This guy's a chemist, and he goes through the process, and he talks about how they tried to produce, and they actually made a molecular car. And he talked about what all the processes it took to get it to do that. And the problem they run into is like when you look at the molecules that are necessary for biological processes to occur, he was doing it in a laboratory with a lot of controls, changing different conditions to get the desired result. In the beginning of life, in the very beginning of the premortal soup, you don't have none of that. You don't have the scientist in his lab coat controlling controlling the environment, making sure you get the pieces together that you need and putting them in the right order, failing on one sense and having to make up for the difference in the early beginnings of life. None of that's in play. You know, you might need one piece to start a molecule that might be on the other side of the planet. How does it get there? I don't think FedEx was around at that time to get it over there so it can function properly.
Yeah. Just nonsense.
Everything is designed. It's obvious. You just have to look at it. It's right there. It's designed. Apples produce apple trees, not orange trees.
But over time, no. Here, I'm gonna play the globe part again. But over time, 10th man, you can change a pear tree into a lemon tree.
You're absolutely correct.
With slight changes and variation over time, you know, that can cause it.
No, you're absolutely correct. It takes an outside force working with things that already are, changing the molecular. And they do it now. They got trees that bear 4 different fruits because they take the branch from 4 different trees and put it on the stem of the root. And one tree can give you 4 different fruits. But that just tells you it takes an outside intelligence to do that. So it took an outside intelligence, an infinite God who made everything, period. We're only working with things that are already made. We can't make things out of nothing.
But 10th man, no, come on now, 10th man. You don't need an intelligent agent. All the chemical processes, they can just cause it. It'll just happen. You know, if you put the right conditions in place, certain slight changes here and there, you don't need an intelligent agent. Just the chemical processes will cause it.
Good. Show it to me. Show it to me. Something from nothing.
Where do those chemicals come from? Oh,
How did they got created, Paul?
right.
Not one transitional form. Not one transitional form.
Zanuck was telling me yesterday that you can actually get a gill to a lung through a gradual process. I think about that. A gill is designed to extract oxygen from water. A lung is designed to extract oxygen from air. Wouldn't there be a point where it would have to try to learn to breathe both oxygen and water at the same time? Typically, when you put water in a lung, what happens? The organism dies. So, you know,
you can't get a gill to a lung because the DNA for a gill produces gills, and the DNA for a lung produces lungs.
Absolutely.
Doesn't have the code for a gill in a lung DNA. You only have the code for a lung in the lung DNA.
Where did any of those get the code from? Oh, okay.
Well, and Danny was telling me how I was talking about protein folding and how proteins function. He used the wrench example, which is typically what I hear when I have evolutionary people talk about it. Well, you know, like you can use a wrench to drive in a nail. It wasn't designed to drive in a nail, but it can do it. You know, and I started thinking about that analogy. First of all, it's a false equivalency right off the bat. But even if I beg the question with him, eventually, if you keep using a wrench to drive in a nail, eventually the wrench will stop driving nails because it'll break, and it'll also stop being able to be used on nuts. You know what I mean? So it becomes dysfunctional right off the bat. But then even you got to have the problem of carrying it over, that information over to the next generation. So if it's broke, how does that carry that information over to the next generation? It's got to. It can't if it's broke and it doesn't function. So how does it carry it? So right off the bat, natural selection, even in that process, falls apart. It's funny.
It dies with DNA. We don't even have to listen to these idiots because the information is what makes the thing what it is. Who put the information in there?
That's why I keep asking. Where are these things coming from? Where is the code for the apple tree, the apple seed? Where does that come from? How do people think all of this came from nothing? It's beyond me.
Oh, I'll be a monkey's uncle. Oh, I see. Rumpus Rumpus just chatted with me. He says, 10th man, how do you manage to be so ignorant? Well, come on the show live, Rumpus. Let's have it. Come on. Come on, Rumpus. I'm calling you out, Rumpus.
Hey guys, I got some news.
Ooh.
So
Big news, everyone. Big news.
Big news, everyone. Now I'm actually going on the Globe Lite tour.
Cool.
Yeah,
Cool.
Nice.
it just
Nice.
happened. I was like, I got invited yesterday
What
through
day?
Skype by Adam and Roxanne and all of them, Jason, and they kind of put me on the spot, like, we really, really, really want you to come. We need you. Look, we left an exact Arwin-sized spot open on the schedule for you as a driver. So I was like, come on. I really want to, but I didn't think I could financially manage it, especially if I'd have to sit through a train trip of 16 hours on the way back. So I thought, okay, if I can get kind of money together to at least get a plane ticket, so I can get back, pretty quickly after a week of on the road, I'll do it. And yeah, that just happened on the show this morning. So I'm going, and I'm gonna go on my first ever conscious airplane trip too, because I haven't been on a serious airplane travel since I was literally 0.
Wow.
Baby. So
Airplane,
I'm gonna
Very good.
and I'm gonna have that P900 with me all the way too, by the way.
Oh, on the plane you have.
Yeah, it's gonna be pretty incredible.
Hey, can someone put up Rumpus's comment? I just posted the Master B. This is hilarious.
Also, my first time in Poland.
You'll have to volunteer someone,
been
10th
there.
man.
Paul, can you do it, please?
I'm working on it. Give me a second. I heard you say that. I had to get back to my laptop or my tablet. Hang on.
Rumpus, come on the show. Let's make it a toe tag.
Shout out to the Dumpus. Rumpus,
I think his opportunity passed a moment ago.
Rumpty
So we've now
Dumpty.
got. Hold on a second. We've now got 16 people in the Discord server, so that's the maximum. It wasn't the case when you were first calling him out, which is why I didn't say it then.
Yeah, well, wait until you read this post.
Okay, you presented, Paul.
Oh, this is for 10th man, not me. I just presented it for him. Go ahead, 10th man.
Yeah, the Rumpus. 10th man, you moron. All of the cells in the body have all the code for all of the body. But in a lung, only the lung DNA is active. Let's see, Rumpus. The one cell amoeba, single cell amoeba has the code for a single cell amoeba. Dingbat. What a dingbat.
I think he missed the point too. The question really comes down to, does the fish have the code for the lung in it? That's the question. He's right that certain genes are turned on and turned off to create the lung, create the nerves, or to create whatever in the body. But the question really comes down, does the fish have the information to create the lung?
You'd have to ask Aquaman.
And I think you mean the gill, if he's referencing lungs. Your example was in regards to transitions. So what you just to summarise, you're essentially saying, yeah, but does the code contained within the lung have the code for a gill?
Well, either direction, it's the same way. So you'd have to have the same code, either create the gill or the lung in the same DNA strand to do either one. Or even in that, you have to transition, even in the code, you have to transition from the gill DNA or the DNA or the code for the gill to transition into the code for the lung.
A rudimentary study of DNA, and I've read several books on DNA, is very simple. It only has the code for what it is. It doesn't have the code for what it's not. This is so basic.
Yeah, Rumpus is basic. We all know that.
Ooh, there are fishes with lung DNA and there are fishes without lung DNA. Wow,
Oh,
Rumpus.
the
Awesome.
only thing.
What is the
the only-
point? What does that
Here-
prove?
Here's what it proves: I lung for fish and chips.
No, just no.
So he
Go have some.
Wait a minute.
Humor. So good.
So he's saying that fishes have the code for lungs in them. Am I
There
reading
are
that
lung
right?
fishes, yes.
Well, what
And
if it's
they
a
are
short
fish
fish?
type and not mammals or anything. It's
Okay,
a-
what about a trout? How about this, Rumpus? Does a trout have a DNA for the lung in
No.
it?
Wait, he's saying most fishes do not have lung DNA, but some fishes have lungs and so do have lung DNA?
Yeah, there's a lung fish. There's fishes
Right.
with lungs. It doesn't prove anything.
Right. Why would not? I don't understand the point. The fish with lungs have lung DNA? Okay. What the hell are you saying, Rumpus?
And where did it get the information to begin with? How did the information get in there?
It's nonsense.
It is.
Just the designer, you know?
Okay,
If
well,
he can make it, he'll do it.
So if he's correct, then technically a human should have the DNA of the gill still in its DNA, right? If he's right.
Yeah, and my lizard tail.
Horns,
Yes, you're right, Paul.
perhaps?
Do you want to just repeat that?
To me, or
Yeah.
the one?
No, Paul.
If he's right, then technically we should still have the gill DNA in our DNA.
Right, just not
Or
active.
the remnants of it.
Yeah, just not
Remnants.
active.
Right. And so these scientists in a lab could actually, or anybody that's a geneticist, should be able to go inside of a human, find that DNA information coding, and turn it on. And then a human should be able to grow gills, right?
Well,
Yep.
there are already mutation possibilities like that, and it's in a lot of light forms. If you start to screw with DNAs, yeah, you're screwing with the building blocks, and all kinds of properties can suddenly come out and potentially ruin the entire organism at the same time. But yeah, things are possible. That's right.
Natural mutations are loss of information. What a scientist does with cloning sheep, it
Right.
only proves it takes an outside force with intelligence to change a DNA. That's all that does. But
The issue with evolution and genetic alteration is that pragmatically, from practical research, if a core DNA is mutated, it'll just become weaker and it'll not help procreation at all. So the theory that mutation can lead to some kind of better species is just always wrong. That's not how genetics work at all.
Well, wait a minute. Drumpus just said something else that's also problematic. He said that humans do not necessarily have gill DNA. DNA that is not used is disposed of. Well, here's a problem with that. There is actually systems inside the cell. Hold on, of course, Lloyd decides to say something. That actually correct any kind of problems within the DNA. So they read the DNA. If there's a problem, it corrects it. So if you're saying, how did the system get rid of it, Rumpus? And also mutations in their systems in place. Also, if there's certain molecules that aren't correct in the system, it's also designed to scrub that out as well.
Right.
So you're running yourself into a wall.
Indeed. You're completely right, Paul, because if you're gonna breed, as it were, like two people, for example, and there is certain like genetic weaknesses, then yeah, it's not like set in stone that genetic weakness will move on. If the partner simply has a better piece of that, and then it will actually tend to replace the broken part of the other side.
well, there's something for sure with Rumpus.
So it outdoes it eventually.
There's something for sure that's true with Rumpus. He'd certainly got more on DNA than anybody.
Hey, QE. How you doing?
Thanks for breaking the point, 10th man.
Well, you paused. I thought you were done.
Yeah, nah. Usually I'm done when I'm done.
Hello,
I have a
Quantum Eraser.
I have a question
How's
of
it going, guys?
biblical nature. If anyone wants.
Rumpus, you're an abject moron. You dodged the question, right? Show me how you can naturally form a single nucleoside chemically. We're not even talking about the information now. We're just going to drop anchor right here, you clown. You don't know dick about physics. Stay away from biology and biochemistry. I'll rip your lungs out. Clown show.
John, did you see that video I dropped? You probably didn't have a chance to watch it. I dropped it at Master B.
I didn't see it yet. I heard you also say something about the magnetic field containing gas pressure. Really?
That's what Xanax said. That's not me.
Oh my God. We're chasing down what Xanax says. This guy's name's Mud. He couldn't friggin' tie his shoes without assistance. And you got me chasing questions regarding Xanax.
Maybe you should just call him Xanax.
I mean, give me a break.
Xanax.
Show me an electromagnetic field
drug.
containing gas pressure. Right now. I want to see it. What are you going to show me? The ionized gas in a vacuum in a chamber? Is that what you're going to show me? Hello? Is my mic working?
Nobody was going to answer, so I was going to answer for them. Yes, that's what they'll probably show you, yes.
Yeah.
In a
Are
chamber.
we done?
In a chamber. In a container, essentially.
Right. So are we done with that?
Yeah.
We were done the minute it came up.
So 2 years from now in classrooms, it will be flat Earth taught, and they'll ask kids, do you remember when your parents thought they were living on a spinning ball?
Maybe. I don't know. I often question if this is a... I don't know how... Don't take this the wrong way, but when I say soft transition, it's obviously not soft for us on the fighting side of the argument in the trenches, but a soft transition, paradigm change, if you will.
It is happening. Slowly but surely.
Hey, John, real quick. That video I posted in Master B this morning talks about them how they actually made a molecular car, and it was a functional molecular car, and he goes through the process of how they went through to make that molecular car, and then he equates that to how we get the different molecules in our system, in our body, the biological aspect. Is really good. So if you want to watch it, it's really good. It's real technical, so but it's still really good.
Hey, QE, Rumpus just challenged you at 6:50 a.m. mark.
Challenge me. Give me a friggin' break, you knucklehead. I friggin' wasted you in 2016, June. I still have that debate. That's going to be going out on my channel very soon. 1 week in Flat Earth. Me and you for like 2.5 hours. It was like King Kong versus Milli Vanilli. Friggin' clown. I'll bet you don't even know what a nucleoside is. For crying out loud. You friggin' pretender clown knucklehead. You've been exposed more times than Mae West. I got a clown file on you. I think Yahoo's, I'm going to shut down Yahoo servers. Idiot. The last one was entropy doesn't apply to the Earth. Remember that one? My God.
That came
Elmer Fudd is blushing. That's your
Perry.
latest knucklehead statement. Oh, science doesn't prove things. Next sentence, next breath. Scientific proof. You're like a walking, talking, retarded Elmer Fudd.
Mr. Air is not the atmosphere.
Yeah, that should just do it. We'll just leave it with that. Tired of messing around in the hedgerows with these friggin' retards. Let's get some real pseudoscience retards, like Neil deGrasse Tyson. or Brian Cox. Let's get some big guys in here defending their bullshit.
He actually said any platform. So if somebody wants to open a Discord where he can maybe add a few extra people so he can come in, let him come on right now.
Added plat. Fuck him.
John, I had a question for you.
Yeah.
This this question has to do with the photoelectric effect. You say that the light particles are hitting the plate. The plate's detecting them. Couldn't that just be heat?
No.
It's detecting. I was wondering about that. If you could enlighten me.
Couldn't that be what?
Heat, like heat from the light that the plates are detecting in the photoelectric effect.
Heat, like IR photons.
Yeah, that's a good example. You know,
They're still photons. They're still particles. Has to do with
meaning they are.
Excuse me, kinetic energy and the work function. Photoelectric effect alone with constant scattering just solves it. It's not heat.
Yeah, that's what I was checking. I was researching into gravity and all that and other forces, and it's such a gray area. It's saying like I was looking up like it's sound force, and it's sound is described as something creating or something exerting a force that's causing vibrations, right? And then also like heat is described by something a force moving atoms, causing heat, making atoms move around faster. So I mean that right there says gravity ain't a force, because gravity, you're exerting a force to lift the object before it can fall back down. Same as like sound, a force has to exert the vibrations. And that's where, that alone tells me that gravity isn't a force just easily explained, because you have to, people word it different, but that's basically what it comes down to, is you have to exert the force to get the force. So I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is relative density explains it just as well as anything.
My God. Go ahead, Chocolate. Take control.
No, I was gonna tell Dayan that he needs to mute so that we can hear what's going on. Dayan, can you hear us?
The one, go on mute.
They can't hear what he's saying in Discord because you're on.
Oh,
I don't think he can hear us.
Wonderful.
Nathan, mute him.
I can't.
Mute him.
I can't. Can someone go into the back chat and mute him? While he absolutely destroys that channel. Wonderful. Where I rely on you, Discord.
Yeah, I do. I like your work, John. I wasn't. I was just asking a question on that. That's a good explanation. I do like your work, but there does seem to be some gray areas in the whole subject. I'm always trying to question everything, and it just seems like it needs to be explained a little bit better. That's why a lot of people have problems, just because they don't really understand. I'm just trying to understand everything.
Right, but your summary is relative density pretty much explains it, correct?
Yeah, in a nutshell, it seems to. But like I said, there's a little bit of gray area. But the difference between energy and force is kind of gray, if you ask me. If you look into it, it seems to be kind of a little bit contradictory. I don't know. There's a fine line between energy and force.
Okay.
I ain't trying to kill the conversation, but it is.
No, it's all good. It's the one. I can't mute people, unfortunately.
I just realized now that you probably heard me.
No worries.
I because I stopped the sound and I saw that I didn't manage to click the mute button properly.
No worries. These things happen.
So we got Brenda on chat encouraging Rumpus to come on the show live, but Rumpus doesn't want to give Nathan Oakley 1980 any credit, but he's giving us credit by being in chat. So I don't understand the duplicity of Rumpus.
Yeah, thanks for the support. Really appreciate you being here, watching.
Shout out to Rumpus.
Shout out retracted.
Rumpus doesn't
Thank you.
get to double speak on this platform. No wonder he stays in chat. He can double speak all he wants in chat, but not on this platform verbally.
Yeah, they know that. That's why they stay in chat.
And with that, I will say if you are watching this on the Nathan Oakley premiering stream, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you're watching this live on the Nathan Oakley 1980 live stream, then this is where we bid you farewell. Massive, huge, enormous thank you to all of you tuned in, hopefully shared, subscribed and all that good stuff. And of course, a massive thank you to all of today's debating panel for making this live show possible. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. As I say, stay tuned if you're watching on Nathan Oakley. I've been Nathan Oakley and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!